Cloud. Okay. So last week we were talking about doing a presentation on mentoring. So I have a presentation I did for the actually for the Boy Scouts in about I don't know 10 or 15 years ago, and I just revised a little bit. But it's basically talking the difference between mentoring and coaching. So mentoring is a trusted advisor, a friend, a teacher, or a wise person. And the examples of this would be Socrates mentoring Plato, Sigmund Freud mentoring Carl Jung, Johann Sebastian Bach mentoring Mozart, Merkules mentoring Armstrong, Obi-Wan Kenobi mentoring Luke Skywalker, Dumbledore mentoring Harry Potter. So an exercise that you can do is to identify one person, preferably someone who is not a relative or who was not a identify a person who is a mentor to you. Then think about that person, what was most important thing to you and the lasting effects that person had on you. And then recall the qualities of the person that made them so valuable. Write down a few qualities that you admired or that made them valuable to you. And then reflect on the relationship. Think about the mentor you identified and the qualities they valued. Identify which of these qualities might be characterized as communication skills, such as listening, talking, asking questions, and being non-judgmental. And then going back to the person you identified, identify the roles a mentor can play in a person's life. Which qualities did you admire in the mentor and that you feel fairly confident that you possess? And what do you need to work on? And what other concerns do you have about their roles? And then coaching is the process of facilitating the performance, learning, and development of another person. The coach is responsible for directing and aligning the members of a team to achieve a goal. The coach is also responsible for leading the development of the team members. Now, the mentoring process is led by the learner and is less skills-based. So a good mentor relationship identifies the willingness and the capability of both parties to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and disagree. So it's more of a self-discovery process. The mentor is far less likely to have a direct line relationship with the mentee, and the mentoring relationship this distance is desirable. So you don't want, we'll talk about cases of later on where you have mentors in an assigned position in some businesses that are used today. And mentoring is rarely a critical part of an individual's role, but rather an extra element that rewards the mentor with fresh thinking, as well as the opportunity to transfer knowledge and experience and wisdom to a new generation. So the differences between coaching and mentoring. In the goals, the coach is, the purpose of the coach is to correct inappropriate behavior, improve performance, and impact skills as an individual accepts new responsibilities. In a mentoring goal, it's to support and guide the person who's in the growth of being the mentee. The initiative is the coach directs the learning and does instructions, and the mentor is in charge of the learning. So the mentor just asks questions, and then the mentee has to, find those answers on his own. And then the focus of coaching is intermediate problems and learning opportunities. And in the mentoring, it's long-term personal development. And then the coaching role is relies heavily on telling people with appropriate feedback. And in the mentoring, it relies on listening and providing a role model and making suggestions and connections. So there's 5 phases in building a mentor relationship. One is building rapport, setting direction, progression, winding up, and moving on. During the first phase, in building the trust phase, the mentor relationship, it's critical for the mentor that have to be both predictable and consistent. During this time, the mentor and the mentee are exploring whether they can work together. They determine the alignment of the values, establish mutual respect, agree on the purpose of their relationship, and establish roles and expectations. And one thing that might happen is the mentee might test how the mentor is reacting to certain situations. Be aware that this possibility you need to be aware of this possibility and to handle these situations in an honest manner. And you might want to ask, what are some of the things that you could do to help build trust? So we look for the following. When the mentor schedules a meeting, you want to be there and be on time. And you want to be open, you want to have open conversations between both parties, and both parties need to be honest. That's why ideally you don't want the mentor to be in a direct line relationship with the mentee, because otherwise they're guiding them to only do what's best for them or the company or something like that. The mentor needs to establish confidence and not share these conversations and treat everything as what it is. Ask what happens if the mentor and the mentee do not hit it off or fail to develop mutual respect. Well, then you need to go and find a new mentor, or you need to terminate the relationship. And then accept what they should attempt to discuss and work out differences. However, if either the mentor and the mentee is uncomfortable, then the process should end. The worst thing that can be done is to move forward when one of the participants has a personality conflict or lack of respect of the other person. And then we want to set direction. So phase 2 is all about setting direction. And this is all about the goal setting aspect of what the relationship has to do. Whereas phase 1 was the goal to establish the purpose. Here, the goal is to determine what the mentor and the mentee should achieve through this relationship. It's important to set goals, not just for the mentee, but also for the mentor as well. When setting goals, they should be medium to long-term goals that can be linked or shortened on, or even day-to-day goals. Goals should be, of course, we know about the SMART goals. Ask the participant to create and share the goals that might be established during the process with the mentee. Have some of the participants share a goal and evaluate the goal for SMART, but not the content. So you just want to evaluate what the goal is. You don't need to evaluate the content. Make sure that it fits the qualifications of being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. The process of building rapport continues during this phase. It's also important to build mutual trust so that you can build while exploring the possibilities and setting the goals. Phase 3, which is progression, this is the longest of the 5 phases. Here, the mentor and the mentee become more comfortable about challenging each other's perceptions, and they explore issues more deeply and experience mutual learning. Also, the mentee takes an increased lead in managing the relationship and the mentoring process itself. So later we'll talk about learning conversations, but for now, these conversations are critical. The phase will focus on learning and problem solving. Scaffolding should also be an important part of the technique. Scaffolding involves providing resources and support as the mentee learns new skills or concepts in the manner that will allow the mentee to grow beyond support. As the mentee, you will be expected to coach the mentee. As the mentor, you'll be expected to coach the mentee. However, you are expected to guide the mentee through the discovery process. The goal of the mentee is to develop through their own problem-solving abilities, and you provide direction as to how to get there. All relationships will experience their ups and downs, and these could occur here as well. There might be a few rough patches. Mentors should be prepared for this and not assume that something is wrong. Continue to have an open, honest conversation with the mentee and the mentors as needs are being met. So what you see is that as you build this relationship, there's ups and downs that come in, and that's all part of the process. There's going to be dips and valleys and crusts and stuff like that as you go through the process. So if you're preparing for that, then you'll have a success. So the winding up phase. Now that the mentee has achieved a large part of the goals, it's time to consider how the mentoring relationship will wind up. The mentee begins to plan how to continue the journey on their own. And you may ask, why is it important to plan ahead for the end of the mentoring relationship? So we want to look for the following: to avoid unhealthy dependency on either individual's part, to prevent hurt feelings by sudden dissolution of the relationship, to encourage maintaining confidence for further personal growth, to mutually determine the roles of the mentor and the mentee after the relationship, and mutually determine how they will stay in touch after the relationship. Winding up by celebrating and accomplishing their accomplishments is much better than winding up by drifting apart. And then moving on, this is about the change in the relationship. Often it changes into a friendship where both parties can utilize each other as an ad hoc sounding board. When this phase has been recognized as approaching or planned for the appropriate in the 4th phase, it's easy to transition from the mentor-mentee relationship to one of that is mutually determined. So they become, a lot of times they become, a friendship is developed after the mentor-mentee relationship is passed on, and then they can use each other for, determining other problems in business later on that they might reach. So there's a thing called the learning conversation, which is the cornerstone of mentoring, and relies on your ability to create reflective environments where the mentee can address his personal growth issues. And then the five components of a learning conversation: reaffirmation. The mentee and the mentor spend time establishing connectedness using more than just normal social niceties. In good relationships, there's a mutual recognition of the emotional states and the levels of interest. Then you identify the issues. This is where the issues will be discussed and articulated, and the mentee desired outcome is identified. And then we want to build a mutual understanding. The mentor encourages the mentee to explore the issues in depth by asking questions that stimulate insight. The purpose of the question is for both them to learn more clearly and understand the situation of all the elements involved. The mentor wants to avoid offering solutions or analogies to their own experience. When the conversation comes to a natural end, the mentor should summarize and check if the mutual understanding has been achieved. Then the last two are exploring alternative solutions. This is when both the mentor and the mentee allow themselves to be creative as possible, looking for other ways to move forward. The goal is to build a range of solutions from which the mentee will eventually choose to take away or to take away for reflection. And then the final check, the mentor encourages the mentee to review what they've going over and to do and why, and what the mentee has learned about the situation and questioning things about themselves. This allows for mutual understanding and places the responsibility for what happens next to the mentee. So there's a three-stage model to go through. So stage one is exploring, stage two is new understanding, and then stage three is action. So the exploring is opening yourself up for discussion. So which phase of the mentoring relationship you're in will determine what you and the mentee will explore. Have the participants identify areas to explore for the following phases. Some possibilities include the structure of the conversation is based on the idea that appropriate exploration will lead to understanding, which will lead to actions based upon these new understandings. So you want to build rapport, you want to set direction, which is goals, you want to do progression, methods to achieve their goals, you want to wind up the mentoring relationship, and then you want to move on. So stage two is a new understanding, which you want to support and counsel, offer feedback, and you want to coach and demonstrate skills. So then stage three is action. So put understanding into action, examining options and consequences, attend to the relationship, and negotiate and develop an action plan. Excuse me. So things that kill a conversation are to put down the mentee's idea, like that's silly or that's stupid. Speak judgmentally. Why did you do that? Use abusive language, even if it's not about the mentee. Not making eye contact will kill a conversation. Slouching over, looking distracted, drumming your fingers on the table, thinking about what you're doing, what you're going to say in reply, interrupting the mentee while they're speaking, doing something else, drawing, making a shopping list, reading emails, etc. These are all pretty self-explanatory about how you're not in the moment and you're not focused on the situation. E-mentoring, avoiding texting while emailing or IMing and all those kind of things. So what we want to do when we're texting, IMing, or emailing is avoiding all caps, because all caps has the interpretation that I'm yelling at the person, unless that's what you want to do, or you want to make a point by capitalizing a specific word. Responding emotionally, you want to avoid. Sending your message out without proofreading it, which we all do, especially in text messages. You send a message and you realize you spelt the word wrong, or there's autocorrect changed it to something else. And ideally, you don't want to ignore a message. So even if you give a little thumbs up or you give some kind of response showing that you received the message, quite often we send a message out, especially text messages, and no one ever responds back in the text message, and you don't know, gee, did they get the message or they're not paying attention to it? This happened with me with someone a couple months ago. I sent them a text message, I set up a meeting with them with someone else, and they thought they texted me back, and they never hit the send button. And like a month went by before they realized that they didn't hit the send button, and I never got any feedback as to how the meeting went. And then how do you measure your success? You've not failed. You just found 10,000 ways that the item, doesn't work. You want to debrief with the mentee and help them learn from the experience. And then how do you measure personal growth? So it begins by realizing they have all potential, that you have increased self-confidence, and it starts by thinking about the bigger picture and the role in shaping it. And then a mentor exercise you can do with a partner is present a business case and ask for guidance, and the mentor then presents examples of areas to investigate to promote self-discovery of the answer. And then the mentoring model is, we have sponsoring and we have development. So sponsoring is in certain business situations, when a new person is brought into a position, they're given a mentor or a protege that they need to work with. This happens a lot in the brokerage industry. So we get a new broker coming in, and they work with an established broker or an established person in the company that helps them and guides them on how they should be working and stuff like that. So that's a sponsoring relationship. Problem with a sponsoring relationship is the mentor has a specific goal that they want to achieve, and it may not be the same goal as the mentee has. Now, in a developmental model, this is less hierarchical, and it's more of where the mentor has no direct relationship with the mentee in any situations other than the mentoring situation. And then in the sponsorships, the mentor has more influence over the hierarchical seniority. So they may be a senior partner, and that may be a junior partner type of relationship. The mentor gives the protege. The protege receives the organizational benefits. So they're in an organization, and this is how they're supposed to act, that kind of stuff. So the mentor is guiding with a specific judgmental thing in mind, where they want the mentor or the mentee to work in a certain situation or work in a certain way that fits the organizational philosophy. And the mentor actively champions and promotes the cause of the protege. Now, in a developmental role, the mentor is experienced in issues relevant to the mentee's learning needs. So this is like where you cross companies. So you're working at company A, and there's a mentor in some other area that you've heard of that would help you, and they're helping you to grow as an individual. The process is one of mutual growth. The mentor helps the mentee to do things for themselves. And then in a sponsoring relationship, the mentor gives the protege the benefit of wisdom. The mentor steers the protege through the acquisition of the experience and resources, and the primary objective is career success. In a developmental mode, the mentor helps the mentee develop their own wisdom. The mentor helps the mentee towards personal insights from which their personal, development happens. And the primary object is personal development, as opposed to career advancement within the company. And then in the sponsorship, good advice is central to the success of the relationship, and a social exchange emphasizes loyalty. In a developmental mode, good questions are central to the success of the relationship. The emphasis is on learning by social and exchange. So in a traditional mentoring relationship, the mentee seeks out the person with the qualities that they seek for guidance. So in traditional mentoring, it's your responsibility to seek out the person that you feel is worthy of being a mentor. Now, in a lot of people in today's society are willing to do mentoring, but you have to ask them. They're not putting a sign up saying, "Hey, I'm going to be a mentor. Come seek me out." So the mentor then asks questions to the mentee to begin the relationship. The relationship starts. Many mentors are willing to give their time as a way to give back, but you need to seek out and ask the mentor for this help. In a lot of situations today, if you're I've heard of where someone's in some kind of business, and they'll seek out someone else who has that kind of information, even if they don't know who that person is, they'll open up some kind of conversation with them and say, listen, I'd like you to be my mentor, and this requires meeting once a week for a half an hour so we can discuss some stuff and I can ask you questions and you can help guide me on my way of being successful. Often the mentor is willing to do this because they want to give back to society, and they're willing to help people out. And then today, coaching and mentoring are often confused, and they're mixed into one thing. So someone who's acting as a coach will see themselves as a mentor instead of as a coach, where a coach will tell you what to do and how to achieve a specific goal. The purpose of a mentor is to help you self-discovery to do that. Often today, what happens is people combine the two, and they combine coaching and mentoring, and they do more on the coaching side than the mentoring, and they don't really understand that mentoring is a process of self-discovery as opposed to coaching, which is, no, you're doing this wrong, you need to do it this way type thing. And then you can go into nationalmentoringmonth.org, which has a lot of information on mentoring. And there's a bunch of other information out there on mentoring. If you actually look for it, there's quite a bit. So this presentation came from I think it was a 2-day workshop on mentoring, where they go through. So this is like an abbreviated presentation on that. So in the workshop that they give, they go through and they break off into sessions, and you practice doing this so that when you go back, in our case, we were doing this for the Boy Scouts. So when you go back to the Boy Scouts, you know how to mentor. And we've done this with the Scouts. For example, we had the way they work in the Boy Scouts is there's one boy who's elected as the senior. It's called the senior patrol leader. So he's like the president of the Boy Scout troop. And then what happens is they get up in front of a group, and they make presentations every week, and they do stuff. So we had this one kid who was new to this. He was the senior patrol leader. And after a couple of weeks of going by, we call him in and we say, okay, how's it going? What do you see going on? And he says, well, no one is. When the Boy Scouts, they put up they do this. They put up a sign, and that means to basically to shut up and to pay attention. So he says, I put up the sign, and no one's quiet. They all just keep talking. Well, what are you doing when they're talking? And then the light bulb went off in his head, because what he was doing, he was talking to the other kids on the staff while he was waiting for everyone to be quiet. I said, so then the light bulb went off and he realized what he was doing wrong. The following week, he goes up, puts the sign up, doesn't say anything. All of a sudden, everyone's quiet within 10 or 20 seconds. So that's kind of like the self-discovery mode. They need to discover that themselves rather than just telling them. So if I'm talking to you in either a father-son relationship or as a coach relationship, and I'm saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, and they say, yeah, you're right, they're basically telling you to shut up. If they say, oh, that's right, then they get a change in their brain, and they're able to listen to what the opportunities are and what the suggestions are coming next. But just remember, if they say, you're right, they're basically saying, shut up, I don't want to hear anymore. You have a question, Vincent?
Yeah, I have a question, but I don't want to interrupt your presentation
Oh,
until
go
the
ahead.
end.
What's the
Oh,
question?
okay. My question is how in my life I always looking for a mentor,
Uh-huh.
and I just don't. My definition of the mentor is that some people have achieved what I want to do,
Mhm.
what I want to be already,
Yep.
and so you don't have to be the same industry in my area, or even they can be the outdoor area, whoever.
Mhm.
And for me, it's difficult to, at least I try, I trying it and try to looking for a mentor. Okay, because I believe number one, the person I need to have a chemistry with him,
Mhm.
and also he need to care about what I try to achieve,
Right.
and that's one thing. And also they need to willing to share. Okay, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm a mentor." So what? Um, what you have is not what I wanted.
Mhm.
Okay, and you also kind of charging me, or you also, and that's for me is a mentor is a giving, try to give the
Mhm.
people to help the people to grow. And my question to you is, how do you find the mentor? Do you have any system way to do it, or you just
I don't have any specific way. The only things I've heard is people that reach out to someone in say in your case in another organization who the
uh-huh.
person is successful and you want to do that and you open up a conversation with them and you say, listen, I would like you to be a mentor to me, to help me grow to the same success that you had. I'm in this business, you're in that business. And what this is going to require is that we meet once a month for half an hour or once a week for half an hour. And it's probably going to be over the course of a year. So you're laying out what exactly the relationship is that you want to have with them. And a lot of people today don't really understand what mentoring is, what it's all about. Okay, I
Mhm.
think it's more of a coaching type thing. But in the true sense, mentoring it's a self-discovery process. So if you come to
Yeah,
me and you say, I want you to be a mentor, I say, okay, well, you know, what kind of, what are you looking for and what questions do you have? And then, so you say, gee, I don't know how to grow my business or whatever it is. I might ask you questions back to make you think about, well, gee, what is it that I'm doing wrong in my business? Or, create an outline of the steps you're doing to go and meet that process type thing. So, but again, it's a lot of people don't understand the difference between a coach and a mentor. You have a question, Carlos?
Yes, thank you, Richard, for this presentation. And I want to thank you. And I'm impressed by your non-AI assistant for this, because this was pre-AI. So this is better than ChatGPT. Um, and one of my questions is, for example, being a mentor and a mentee, the relationship is long term. So it has to be somebody that you care, or like you have a certain bond. Because
Mhm.
if you just like LinkedIn search and say, okay, I want to beat this guy, you reach out, as I mean, it won't work unless that person cares for you and says, yeah, I can help you get there. And I agree with what you say. Many people, they are willing to give out, and they have a thirst to give out and just transcend.
Mhm.
And now that the longevity of the people or live longer, so there are going to be more people that are willing to transfer their information. And so that's very, very, very valuable. But the thing is about the mentor and mentee, it's a long term. So
Look,
it
it
has
can
to,
be long term, it can be short, it can be a year, it can be 6 months, it could be whatever the period is to overcome whatever the challenges are that you're doing.
okay. And
Or
the
you may,
frequency, once a week, because once a
it,
month, I think it doesn't matter.
that depends on, what your goals are and how you want to do it. And what the time, if you're talking to someone that is very time strapped, maybe you can only meet with them once a month. Someone else may want to put the time aside once a week, or if you start out once a month, and they may see, oh, this person's really active and engaging in suggestions that we're doing. Because a lot of times you make a suggestion to someone and you say, well, you need to do this. Okay, like
That's coaching.
well, you give them questions, for example. So, like,
Yes.
to give you an example, Chris Voss, who does a lot of negotiating stuff, he worked for the FBI as a negotiator, and he went to the person who was in charge of the negotiation stuff, and he says, well, I want to be a negotiator, and she's like, well, you're not qualified, get out of here. He says, what do I need to do to get in the system? He says, go work go work on a suicide hotline.
Mhm.
So he goes out and he comes back a year later and he says, oh, I worked on the suicide hotline. And she's like, you're kidding. No one ever takes that suggestion. So that's is she working as a coach or a mentor? Because she's saying, here's something you can do to improve your skills. And now what did you learn from that experience? So, it's crossing that fine line of coaching versus mentoring that we were talking about here. So in some cases, the mentor wants to assign tasks to the mentee so that they can go off and they can learn something and come back and say, this is what I learned. okay, as opposed to saying, you know, like do 50 push-ups type thing.
And before I just release the mic, Darren says, I'm your trusted advisor. That's how he promotes.
Mhm.
So what was that? It's like a blend between coaching and mentoring.
Kind of.
Because
Well,
he says he has Jim Rohn as his mentor. I don't know if it's fictitious, if it was real. I don't know, but what would be like trusted advisor?
well, if you look at, well, a trusted advisor is someone who, when they tell you something, you say, okay, I'm going to follow what they do because I believe what they're saying. Now, Jim Rohn was more of a mentor because he would propose situations for you to learn from, which is different from what Darren does. Darren says take insane productivity. Okay, Jim Rohn would say, okay, well, you know, if you've ever watched any of Jim Rohn's stuff, he's like, well, what do you do in this case and what do you do in that case? And he gets you thinking about what you should be doing as opposed to telling you what to do. So in Darren's case, he just says, I'm your trusted advisor, take insane productivity, and you'll benefit from it. As opposed to saying, go look for a class that will help you work on, you know, being more productive type thing.
Thank you.
Gil? You're on mute, Gil.
Oh, I haven't said anything. I didn't know you called me. Thank you, Richard. This was awesome. I love it. I struggle with these questions a lot because I have three people that I call mentors and coaches at the same time. Two of them I communicate with on a weekly basis. One of them I communicate with every 3 to 4 months. The three of them are much older than I am. All have been through businesses and all worked within business and all different industries. It's and I when I say I question this and I ask myself this even more now that I'm in the process of writing my book, right? Who do I want to be and how do I want to show up? Do I want to show up as a coach? And then I actually tell my opinion, right? This is what you need to do because I'm the coach and get it done, excuse my French. And as a mentor, it's more of like, this is what I did, right? Exactly what you just shared with Darren Hardy and Jim Rohn is Jim used to tell his stories about how he screwed up and how somebody mentored him. Well, that's a wrong philosophy. Here's what the philosophy should be. And if you want to change your life, change your philosophy type of thing, where a coach would be, you need to save 10% now, every freaking month. And you need to put in 10% of what you make into personal development now. And if you don't do it, I'm not coaching you anymore, or something like that.
Right.
So I struggle with that, Carlos, as well, daily, with the questions I ask my mentors when I have lunch or dinner with them. If I ask them, so what do you think? I'm getting myself into trouble, right? Because they're all in their 70s. They've all had successful businesses, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of businesses. And if I ask them, what do you think? When they talk to me the following time or the next time or 2 weeks later, they ask me, have you implemented what I thought? And if I say no to them, they're like, so what the fuck did you ask me this question for even?
Yeah.
So that's when they act as a coach, right? So I also have to be careful to maintain this relationship with them, with the questions I ask and how I go into those meetings. But thank you, Richard. This is
Now,
very
how did you find those mentors? Or how did you get relationships with them?
Community through networking. One of them is his name is Terry Myers. He's a turnaround consultant. I read his book. I reached out to him, and we just connected. And we started talking. And I asked him, "Do you mind mentoring me once a week? I would like to sit with you for 30 minutes. I know you're retired. I will come to your house, if that's okay with you." And he said, "I would love that." And I went to his house once a week for 30 minutes, talking about 13, 14 years ago. And ever since then, I've had this ongoing relationship with him. Now our relationship is once every 3 months. We communicate just because he is more of a coach to me than a mentor.
Mhm.
Because he was a turnaround consultant, and to be honest, it's sometimes embarrassing to go back to him and tell him I didn't implement what he said I need to implement.
Yeah.
And then the other two that unrelated, both retired, both ran very successful businesses. I just asked them, how did they cope with these things, like in their business? Because one was in the chemicals, one was in the co-packing, so similar industries but not the same. How did they cope with, like, this is the situation I have. If you had a situation like this, have you had a situation like this? How did you cope with it, and how do you cope with it?
Right.
And I feel a lot more receptive to meet with them more often because I don't have to give them. Think about it as an accountability, right? You come to a meeting, an accountability meeting, and are we mentors or are we coaches? How embarrassing is it if you show up without your action plan that you promised you were going to take care of with your accountability group?
Mhm. Does that help you, with, Vincent?
Yeah, yes, that's no, I'm listening. Yes, is it uh for yes, I continue. I want to listen listen more.
Mohan?
Thank you, Richard. See, I have a question. Like, can a mentor and mentee relationship be confined to just a single project? And
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's whatever you want it to be. So, I mean, typically it's got to be some project-based thing or something as opposed to just a general thing. So if you were working on, a project, you're getting into some parts of Africa or something, right? So maybe you find someone else who's done that and you ask them for help on how you would go in and get into that African, country, for example.
country,
I think you were talking to Mogus about that, right?
right?
Yeah, so in that case, he was giving you advice, kind of coaching, kind of mentoring at the same time on the aspects to look for and what to, what you might see as stumbling blocks on the way. So yeah, it could be project based.
Right. And I'm also assuming that it is always the mentee who has to reach out to the mentor, right? And in Gil's case, what I understand is we should probably ask, right? First, find who can help us,
Mhm.
and then ask them if they are willing to be my mentor.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally you hear it happening, but I mean, rarely does it happen where you're going to get a call from someone. Hey, I'm a multi-billionaire and I went into there and let me help you get into your country. If
Right.
that's the case, well, the first question is, well, why is this guy calling me? Because he was referred to me that he might help me, or because he's got some other ulterior motive. So, the typical relationship is I need to ask the mentor to engage into the relationship.
And can this be, sorry, Jan, I have one more question.
Sure.
So, would there be any financial transaction? Like, is it paid in some cases where the mentees, is that doable?
I think if there's a financial transaction going on, it's not as a pure relationship personally, because now it's the relationship is based upon the person getting money as opposed to the person providing a service. So I
Right.
think it's going to be more authentic if there's no money relationship. Now you may want to give the person, gee, your suggestions really helped me out. I want to give you something, a gift or something, or I want to give you some shares in the company, or I want to give you some bonus based upon that. But I think that's separate. I think that should be separate personally.
The reason I asked is like, why should someone mentor me, right? Like they're already in a place where they have achieved. And so, how do I make sure that I'm being mentored by the right person? So, that's why this question came up. Should I offer them maybe a percentage of shares upfront? Tell them like, yes,
Oh.
does not work that way.
A lot of times they want to just give back to society. They like, I was very successful. I want to help you be successful. as a way of giving back. They're not looking for anything monetarily out of it. They're what they get out of it is seeing you grow and seeing that I helped this person move on.
All right. No, I was just wondering if that would qualify me as a mentee who's really looking for a mentor, right? Because
Yeah.
rather than just someone who's fishing around, who's just going around asking people.
Yeah, find someone who's a billionaire or done very well in your society and send them a note or try to arrange a meeting with them and just say, listen, I'd like you to be a mentor to me and to help me through these situations, explain what everything is, and then see what they say. I mean, the worst they can do is say no, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thank
Now,
you, Richard. And this is super helpful, very timely. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Jan.
Thank you, Richard. This was very clarifying. I can more tell Vincent maybe if this helps, but because I've been using this strategy every time I approach a coach or a mentor, is exactly what we are asking. One of the 10 questions we ask in the screening interview when we hire people. So the question goes, share with me your worst professional failure, a time when you were really knocked down and how you overcame the challenge. That's my filter in saying, how much pain have you gone through? And so you understand my pain so you can help me. And I have kind of ditched all of them. I don't have today I do have a business coach, strategy coach in my business. And then, yes, we all have Darren as a coach, more or less. But I don't have like this deep mentor, because I tried within the last 2 years, 2 or 3 people, and they explained to me it was like, well, that's even not a failure in my view. It's just like they tried to explain to me how much that was a pain point. And it's like, you know what I mean? So you have to understand how much pain have they gone through so they can understand and put themselves in your position. And it's probably have saved me a lot of time to spend time with someone who I try to or think is a trusted advisor, and then it becomes they're just talking to me, thinking that I need their words in some way, So I don't know. I maybe have been missing out, but that's kind of what I've been using as a filter.
Carlos.
Yes, Mohan, when you suggested about how on the payment thing, I started using Michael Solar's suggestion. He says he's not charging, but he asks for if you would like to give a donation so you can help spread the positive impact to the world. And I just want to share something that happened last Saturday. I had a meeting with a person that bought my book, the preview book. And he says, Carlos, in a certain way, I want to be close to you because I'm going through this part of my life. And I think you can help me, because he said it was as God Diosidencia, let's call it God syncrasy, that we've met in certain places, random places, out of nowhere, after so many years. And now it says, this is a God sign. So, and it says, well, this gotta be, how much should I pay you? I said, no. I mean, whatever you think it's value to you, you pay me. If it's one coffee, a hug, $10, or 100,000, whatever, it's up to you, because sometimes one word can be, can make it a life changer. So I'm testing that, and I'll tell you how it goes, but it felt good. It doesn't feel like my suggestion is worth $50 or $100 an hour or $250 an hour. That is very transactional. And the other thing, Mohan, don't have the imposter syndrome, or the yes, you're very valuable, and there are a lot of people that they need in order to survive, they need to pass their knowledge forward. You know, you're from India and you're surrounded by all this good vibe thing, but cause and effect, karma, and all that stuff. Okay, so if there's no effect, there's no cause, right? So when as the older you get, and you start working in the company, etc., you start having an effect, and if you start having an effect, then the people start to die internally. So asking for a mentor is also helping the other person stay alive. So go for it. Don't be shy. Don't say maybe I'm not that great of a person, or I don't deserve that mentor. Aim for the billionaires from India or from whatever. Ask for them, or join them, or join a club, or ask somebody that can present you to somebody. And that's what I'm going to do here in Monterey. I'm gonna, this is something I'm gonna do. Look for somebody in Monterey, like the big guys that have already gone to my path, and just with subtleness, with connections, I'll get to that person. That person will say, yeah, I'll mentor you. So you can reduce the learning curve. So that's what I want to say, the gifts, donations, and the cause and effect, and go for it.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
Nigel.
Yeah, I want to ask you again on this question of money. What basis do you say that there shouldn't be any payment for mentoring? I mean, where did you get that information? Is that from this course they gave you, or is that
That's
your
that's
opinion?
my personal opinion.
That's just your personal opinion.
Most
Because
of
I would disagree with that.
most of the
Okay.
mentoring situations I've heard of people getting into, there was no payment involved.
Yeah, this was just a personal question I had when I heard about this. I mean, I have not seriously pursued, other than Darren, I have not had a mentor. And I think Darren also, after reading this personal MBA, right, no, he mentioned that you need to have a mentor to achieve something in life, right? And that's when I started. I mean, I sent several emails, and then I stumbled upon Darren, and then I've never looked for another mentor. But I think at least to scale my business, I really want to seek someone who's been in the healthcare space to be my mentor. And so I was just wondering, how can I shorten that? I just don't go running around finding a mentor. I just wanted to follow a system, right? To get in front of the right people.
I think the most interesting thing that you said in terms of changing my outlook towards coaching and mentoring is that you said that coaching, you get instructed on what to do, whereas mentoring actually is empowering you to take your own decisions and your own actions, armed with the experience of somebody else. Yeah.
Right.
And I never really got that before, because I found consulting, when I was doing sort of when I've been coached, people were always just asking me questions all the time. You know, they were trying to get me to say, you know, this, that, and the other, and so that seemed to me more what you're talking about as mentorship. So yeah, so I found that there's sort of a, but I do recognize that there are different people have different approaches to both, and so thank you for that anyway. Yeah.
Gil?
Has anybody had a personal coach, personal business coach? Okay. So you know, Carlos, that the first thing that they did was the discovery of the goals within the business. And then they broke it down exactly like we do all the time, every day, with everything we do. The discovery of the goal of the business. What are the tasks that need to be done to achieve that goal? And they hold you to that. Every call with them, every meeting with them, they ask you, okay, have you done your X amount to achieve your Y, right? And if you haven't, they go back and say, okay, what is it going to take to do that. So think of somebody that is in sports, is running to go to the Olympics or wanting to go to the Olympics. That's the first question. You want to go to the Olympics. Okay, now for the next 4 years, we are going to work on those things that will take you to the Olympics. If it's 100 feet, 100 meters, 800 meters, this is what the coach is for, period. Now, an advisor or a mentor is somebody that's been through the Olympics and is sitting with this person that's training for the Olympics and is offering them their discovery that they made while going through the coaching, the session, the experience of that Olympics. This is how I felt. You might be feeling differently. This is how I felt. This was my experience. Can you share any of your experiences so maybe it could make your life a little easier? But that is the biggest difference. I paid a coach a lot of money per month to meet with them for 30 minutes every week just to go over my tasks, my steps, my goals every freaking week. I don't have it anymore, but it's a game changer in my opinion. It's a game changer, for sure.
Jen?
I'm just looking at a book from Dan Sullivan. It says founder of strategic coach. And that's what I also believe Darren is. He's not a mentor, he's a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, how humble are you if you call yourself a mentor? Is that, do you find a mentor in the marketplace saying, hey, I'm a mentor, I'm a wise advisor or mentor in life or whatever? Like, because you can get a million of coaches, but a good mentor, like Gil was talking about, are they actually online in the marketplace, or are they actually, like also maybe what Vincent asked for, do we find them online, or do we actually find them off the grid by meeting people, the networking and stuff like this? Because in my mind, if someone says, pay me $1,000 for 3 sessions and I can give you my advice, again, going back to the transactional part of things, but that's a question. It's just like, will the real mentors with wisdom and, will they be in the marketplace? And, that's a question. What do you think about it?
You mentored me on a certain object, an aspect of something that I learned from the coach that I did not do well. And then I looked at you and you gave me direction on what you did. And I said, oh my gosh, it's doable. Look at what Jan's doing. It's doable. You were my mentor for that aspect of my business.
So
Right. So what you're saying is that through the network and something that you discover through your network.
It could be.
Richard.
So when I was in the stock market, I used to be an arbitrageur back in the day, and we had a saying that those who have something to say aren't talking. So the people who have the most knowledge about the situation, they're not coming out and telling everyone, hey, this is what I'm doing. They're quiet. And you need to seek those people out and ask them, because, like we said, the people who have something to say who you really want to listen to, they're not out there boasting and bragging and everything else. They're quiet. They keep it in the background. And the people who are out there, making a forefront about everything, those are the people you really need to be suspect of. Now, some of them are good, and some of them are they just want to talk.
But to me, it's right, and that's the hard part to seek them out, But and also, how can you be a mentor by being in the 40s? To me, I don't think so. Do you, guys?
It depends. It depends on what your experience is.
Right. Yes. Of course. Yes. Yep. But all right, I need to go, guys. But I need to hop on my team meeting. Great session. Thank you, guys. Have a nice weekend.
All right. Thank you.